Okay, first and foremost, I was in the last session to listen to our guest speak, and Troy, Officer Butler's going to tell you a little bit more here in a minute. But what you're about to hear is incredible, and this is not fantasy. This is true life, and you're not going to believe what you hear. So buckle up. That's number one. Number two, put those cell phones away right now. You better not. I better not hear one cell phone. Come on, I'm giving you a chance. Put them away. Yeah. All right, we ready to roll? High school. All right, here we go. Please, your undivided attention. Like I said, buckle up. This is going to be a wild one.
All right, good afternoon, high school students. All right, so all right. Mr. Kiger doesn't get this.
I come up here and get booed, and this guy's been here 2 years.
All right, so I was asked if I knew anybody who could come speak to you about drugs, alcohol, the repercussions of it, and the effects that it causes. So first people that popped up in my mind is the Columbiana County Mobile Crisis Response Team. We use them a lot if I come in contact with somebody who is an addict or just needs help in general. I call them, they come talk to them. They could point them in the right direction to get help, give them examples of things that they've been through and all that good stuff. So listen to what they have to say and take it to heart, because everything they're saying is true and could happen to anybody. All right, first we're gonna let you speak with Glenn.
Thank you, sir. Can you guys all hear me? Yeah. All right. I love Officer Butler. He is one of the few East Liverpool officers that hasn't had to taser or arrest me. So, give him a round of applause. So just real quick, can I get a quick show of hands? How many of you have been impacted or encountered through family or whatever means? How many of you have been affected by mental health or substance use? Just a quick show of hands. So, all right, thank you. Yeah, so that's terrifying. I mean, it breaks my heart. You guys are so young and at a formidable age. You have the world at your fingertips. It's sad that you guys have all had to experience those things, and I'm sorry that you've had to deal with that. So my name's Glenn McMillan. I supervise the Columbiana County Mobile Crisis Response Team. We're a team of peer supporters. That means we're people with lived experiences, if that's in substance use, mental health, or both. There's a lot of training, a lot of education that goes with it, and a whole lot of experience. So I am a 6-time felon across 3 states. I'm not proud of that. That's how I got here. My final time was I fatally overdosed here in East Liverpool, and I had a lot of good officers that saved my life and brought me back. So now I'm here today because of them. So just to kind of backtrack a little bit, grew up in a middle-class family. Don't hold it against me. I did go to Beaver Local. I knew I'd get it from somebody. I was waiting for it. So it was a million years ago, so it doesn't count. So anyway, I grew up a country boy. We drank, we smoked pot, we did our thing, in the fields. But it was manageable, is what we did. Fast forward to my junior year in college, a couple years later, I was in a motorcycle accident. I was hit by a drunk driver on my motorcycle over by Beaver Local High School. I was exposed to pain medicine. I was exposed to oxys. And something about those pills flipped a switch in me. And that's the only way I can describe it. I quickly learned that the oxys were doing more than just masking my physical pain. They were masking my emotional pain, my mental pain, my celebration. It became a tool for anything. And I quickly, my accident was in the end of the summer. I was a full-blown addict by Christmas. It happened that quick. I got into it thinking they're prescriptions, how hard can it be? Next thing I know, I'm looking in the mirror, realizing I'm dope sick and trying to think who I can call to get some pills. A short time after that, it started to trend towards heroin. On my very first drug run down to Steubenville, we were with a group of people going down to buy some dope, and a man lost his life. He was robbed and shot 6 times in the face right around the corner from us. We heard it, we watched him stumble back, we watched him hit the ground. Most terrifying thing I'd ever seen. And sadly, that would just be the first, that became a trend. That became something that, it wasn't the first fatality I saw. So, in my early 20s, I was in a police chase. I ran from the cops in a car, and I don't recommend it. But that's when I first became a felon. I got 3 felonies right off the bat. I was incarcerated for 2 years. My family didn't know what to do, They were church people, spiritual people. They just didn't understand why I was acting this way. I wasn't brought up this way, but I was not the son that they recognized. I was far from it. Did my 2 years, come out, got into some different counseling, went to some different detoxes. I just kept going back out. That transitioned into shooting heroin, which then I almost lost my left arm. I have a huge scar running down my bicep. A needle broke off, went underneath my bicep. You'd think that would be enough to deter a sane person. And I just kept going back out and going back out. So finally, things kind of came to a screeching halt. In 2017, our area was impacted by fentanyl. Very quickly, there was no longer real heroin here. It was becoming fentanyl. I'm sure you guys have heard of fentanyl, Fetty. It's a synthetic opioid. It's super potent. I mean, just the most minute amount would kill you. And I died 3 times in the summer of 2017, to where they had to perform life-saving measures and administer copious amounts of Narcan. When you hear people say, how many times should I Narcan somebody? What's too much? It's not. I'm here because of it. I'm here because of good first responders and officers that saved my life. So the last time it got me, I was put in the ICU in East Liverpool Hospital. I was in there for 5 days. And across from me, there was a gentleman that had also been in overdose, but he was on life support. My second night there, I could hear the nurses sort of huddled around the nurse station, and they were crying and talking, and here what they were doing was calling this gentleman's family. If they could just get one person to come in, they could keep him on life support a little longer. I heard him talk to his mom, his sister. I heard him calling cousins and aunts and uncles. No one would come in for this guy. They ended up taking him off, and he passed away. They covered him up, and they left him there for about 2 hours. So I remember that guy's name. I carry that with me all the time. That was my moment where that switch flipped back. I had the, oh shit, this is me, the man in the mirror moment. I had hit my rock bottom. So I knew then that I had to change. Everything was gone. My possessions, my loved ones, my family, my relationships, everything. So I had to start from scratch. We call this resilience. You hit a life event where something's got to change. You realize you need help. You realize you need to ask for help. You start building what we call resiliency. Resiliency we turn into perseverance. Perseverance is when you set goals. No matter what's in front of you, you attain that goal. And we do small goals. No huge victories. We do little steps. So anyway, I started combining programs. These Liverpool officers that came to my first overdose had hooked my family up with a gentleman that had been kind of working with people in similar situations to me. He was what we would call a peer, just like we are. So I humored him and I called him, and when he answered, he was all dude, buddy, and man. And I was like, hey, this is a country boy. I can talk to him. It's not some asshole clinician. That's where my mind was at the time. And I learned a lot going through the process. The clinicians, peer supporters, counselors, school counselors, teachers, officers. These are all valuable resources. You guys, do not be afraid to approach these people. They are wonderful, and they are here to truly help you be the best version that you can be of yourself. So I combined some stuff. I did a spiritual program. I did for the court, I did what they call a medicated assisted treatment program. So that's counseling with a form of medication. So I'd already done methadone and messed it up. It took my teeth. That's all I got from it. I did Suboxone. I learned how to manipulate that very quickly. But when I found getting my spirituality right and getting a program that worked for me, which was Vivitrol, which is a blocker, I finally got some freedom. I could build some traction. So I started building that perseverance. So I had 3 court cases across 2 states, so I had to overcome that. I was on house arrest. I had to overcome that. I had to get my license. I had to go through these steps. But I realized that idiocracy I had in me when I was too stupid to live but too stubborn to die, I started using that for good. So I started turning my weaknesses to strengths, basically. And I had a lot of good people in the way that I encountered. So I, through the faith-based program, had to go to church. And since I was on house arrest, I decided to go with my parents. And I was introduced to this gentleman who was losing his daughter to alcohol cirrhosis of the liver, and she was very young. And she's sitting there today, and she's my wife. But we'll let her tell that part of her story. So anyway, I got involved with the faith-based stuff. I got involved with our court system. I started ice skating uphill, and it started bearing fruit. I started seeing things. I was taking care of my court stuff. They were actually acknowledging the strides I was making. So today I'm over 7.5 years into my recovery. I've been working in the crisis unit for coming up to 3 years. But I was blessed to receive this opportunity because a friend of my family who works for our Mental Health and Recovery Services Board had been following my progress. And once I'd passed my 4-year clean mark, she approached me about building and becoming a part of what they called the Columbiana County Mobile Crisis Response Unit. And what that team. I keep saying unit and I get in trouble for it. So we're a team. So 3 years and I still can't keep that shit straight if that doesn't tell you anything. But I get to work with these fine people. We get to go out on crisis calls, which is very hard, but we're there because we've been there ourselves. I drive fast and I'm good at crisis. I knew those 2 things. Those were my strengths. So I got to build off those. And so I drive spiritedly, not fast. I'm a car guy. But we started working in this county and just addressing crisis. And all you guys that put your hands up, I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here for the people that are hurting, the families, the people that are in it, anyone affected by it. You literally become listener to this. When Jamie was sick, a nurse had told me one sick person can take out 4 healthy people. So that shows you the drain and the cost that this stuff has. So I want to turn this over to these guys. I know we're a little pressed for time, but I just want to implore you guys that there's tons of resources out there. We're all here to try and help you be the best versions of yourself. Reach out to Officer Butler. Reach out to a lot of your teachers. Poor Mr. Davis, wherever he's at in here, he used to have to arrest me, so he could tell you what it looks like to be from where I was to where I am. But yeah, so we're here to answer some questions whenever we're finished up, but I'm going to turn it over to my lovely wife, Jamie, who's...
Hey guys, thank you so much for having us today. What a big group. Is this the entire high school? Yeah, 9 through 12, right? Okay. Well, thank you guys for having us again. I appreciate you guys listening to a bunch of old farts tell you what not to do. But the reason that we're so passionate about what we do is because we have been there and we've seen the destruction, we've lived it. So to give you guys a little bit of background about some of my strengths and why I'm passionate in my job, you'd have to know a little bit of my backstory. So my parents they raised me in the church. They were Christian, and they divorced when I was about 5. Shortly after that divorce, I was molested by somebody that my family trusted very much. So this led to some body image issues for me and some unhealthy views of relationships. By the time I was 15 years old, I had several full-blown eating disorders. And I know that this doesn't just happen to women, it happens to men too. But there is that pressure, and that was what I felt at the time. So I had 2 long-term toxic relationships. I graduated when I was 18 from, don't hold it against me, Columbiana High School. But that was my stomping grounds, and I was in some very physically abusive relationships and mentally abusive relationships. So they broke me eventually. My mid-20s, I became a really bad alcoholic. My addictions fed each other. So when I drank alcohol, I wasn't hungry. And I went overboard with it a lot. I was actually eligible for a transplant, getting on the transplant list in my late 20s. So honestly, if you drank like I did and treated your body the way I did now at your age for 10 years, you would be right where I was at. Your liver will not make it that long. But anyway, I remember my father meeting a gentleman that was in recovery at church. They were trying to start up a ministry called Celebrate Recovery. It's one of my favorites. But it's like a faith-based 12-step program. So my dad asked him, he said, I can't get through to this girl. I just can't make her understand how sick she is. And he couldn't. Nobody could. I wasn't listening to anyone until I met Glenn. And my father was desperate at that point because he knew I hated men, right? I had a lot of trauma due to men, so it was a lot for him to even refer a man to me. So I made Glenn meet me at the dog pound. I felt like dogs were a better judge of character than I was, so that's how we got to know each other. And it was great. My brother died from alcoholic liver cirrhosis, and that's why my dad was so desperate. My brother was 44 years old. Now, I know that sounds old to you guys, but that's probably around your parents' age, so it really flies by. But about 3 months after I met Glenn, I ended up in the hospital, Salem Hospital, where the doctor told me that I had no chance. I had been in there umpteen times for alcohol-related illness injury, and I was not going to make it through the week. My blood work showed that I wasn't eligible for a transplant because I wasn't going to survive long enough to get one. So he tried to send me to hospice, and what Glenn did is he asked the doctor, of all the time she's been in here for alcohol-related illness and injury, what resources have you provided her? And the doctor didn't have an answer for him. And now that's my job. We have an office at Salem Regional Medical Center, and we work with people with alcoholic liver failure. We work with people that come in for overdose. We work with people that come in beat up for domestic violence. And we try to help these people and give them the resources that they need. So when he said this to the doctor, and the doctor had no answer, he was kind enough to refer me to UPMC in Pittsburgh, where they told me more of the same. I actually went into the hospital on an Easter Sunday, and I really wanted to go to church that day because Glenn was playing Jesus in the play. So I just thought that was hilarious, and I had to see it in person. And I worked really hard to get in the shower that morning, and I couldn't. I was too sick. My body was failing. He came home from being in that play to find me in a pool of blood and vomit on my apartment floor. And that's when he took me to Salem, and that's when they referred me to Pittsburgh, and I was there until 2 days before July 4th. They released me. My birthday's in August. They released me and told me that I wasn't going to survive to my birthday. I wasn't going to survive another month, enjoy it. You can have all the pain medicine you want if you just want to give up now. And I said, if I'm going to die, I will die trying. So I did everything I was supposed to do. I went to my meetings. I went to my doctor's appointments. I did my psychological assessments. I did everything that they require for a transplant. And I was blessed to get one on December 16th of 2019. And I was home Christmas Eve, which was a huge relief. That's one of my favorite holidays. We actually decorated the tree in October that year because we didn't think that I was gonna make it till Christmas, and they wanted me to enjoy one more tree. So I'm grateful to be here today. I'm grateful that you guys are giving me this time and attention, and grateful for the job that I have, because I know that you guys see it. You guys may have members of your family, friends of friends, or actual direct friends that, you know, struggle with this. Maybe you yourself do. And I don't want you to feel embarrassed or ashamed, because that's what almost killed me. I did not want my dad to find out I was an alcoholic, and he knew long before I thought he knew. So I lied to him left and right. And as soon as I was able to be honest and truthful with myself and others, was when the healing truly began. And now I have another layer of accountability. Somebody died to give me life, to give me a new liver. So I eat as healthy as possible. I don't drink. I'll have 6 years in recovery this April, and I'm grateful for every minute of it. So thank you guys for your time.
Hi, how are you? My name's Keith Carlo, and I get the pleasure of working with this crew over here. Glenn and I met a few years ago in our training, and he brought me on about 6 months ago, and I was pretty fortunate to have that happen. When I was talking earlier, it was a little bit bigger group, but I mentioned if I was sitting where you're sitting, I would say, what could this 58-year-old old, she said she was old, I make her look like I have socks older than her, and what could we possibly have in common? And the answer to that is that I sat where you're sitting when I was your age, and I was already drinking about 2 or 3 days a week. I started in middle school. And I had a guy like me standing up in front of a room saying, listen, this is how this ends. And that guy had been in a whole bunch of bad situations, spent a little time in prison, and I said, sure, maybe for you, but it can't go that badly for me. That just won't work out that way. I'm smarter than that. I can stop anytime I want, every excuse there was to have. And so I continued on like that. And through high school, I was drinking regularly. For somehow or another, we got away with Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. It was drinking and smoking weed. And it was always to excess. I did not honestly start out when I was 13, 14 years old thinking that I would become an alcoholic. It wasn't anything I ever dreamed that I hoped would happen. It just slowly but surely progressed, and it happened. And it crept up on me a little bit at a time, and a little bit at a time, and a little bit at a time. I got married and had children, and I still had this nagging problem going on. I had this relatively normal life, and then I had this whole other thing where I would just do anything I could to not deal with what was going on up here. I didn't like what was going on in my head most of the time. It was always, I call it a pretty big old crap storm blowing up there. That's how it feels for me. And it quieted down when, much like Glenn, I was introduced to opiates. And I took them the same way I drank, in excess, every single time. And there was a slow, steady progression of that. And all the while along, when I was sitting where it was your age, it can't happen to me. And now I'm knee-deep in it, and I can't figure a way out of it. I can even remember sitting in a hospital one time. It just came to me when Jamie was speaking. I was in a hospital one time, and I looked at a nurse, and I said, I'm pretty sure I have a problem with these pills. Can you help me? She said, call your doctor on Tuesday. I'm sure he'll work it out. Things have changed. Thank God things have changed. There was no team like us where the nurse would then say, hey, we need to call those guys. There was nobody at that time, as recently as like 2013, for me to have a conversation with. So life just went on that way, and I grew distant, and I was married, but it wasn't good. And there was a wipeout around the corner that I couldn't have even imagined. So December 23rd of 2015, I got arrested for 3 aggravated robberies with a weapon. I was looking at 42 years in prison. So when you're creeping up on 50, that's a long time. I'm not trying to throw the big old scared straight speech at you, but I was the guy. It couldn't happen to me. I was smarter. I was slicker. I would figure it out. And I was so deep in the throes of addiction that I could not figure anything out. I couldn't hold a job. The first 23 years of my working career, I had 2 jobs. The last 7 years before I got arrested, I had 9 jobs. And that's how I flushed my life down the toilet. So face down on the pavement with knees in my back and the cuffs getting put on was when I had that awakening Glenn was talking about. I knew something had to change. And it's kind of funny because as much as I was disgusted by the situation that I was in and the worst that I put my family in, two teenage boys, one in college, one in high school. My kids, I had one 16, same age as you guys, and one in college. And that poor kid had to walk back into his high school with his friends after I had been on 2 news stations in the front page of the paper in the Akron area. So I humiliated everybody. And that was awful. But it was also out there. What a problem I had. And all of a sudden, some opportunity to do something about it showed up. Now, don't get me wrong. Prison was around the corner. That was going to happen. There was no way that wasn't going to happen. I was going to prison. I went and spent 60 days in a treatment facility, and I went in and I went to the sentencing hearing. I couldn't believe my ears when they only gave me 6 years. It was a miracle that they only gave me 6 years. I got just absolutely blessed. And very much like Glenn and Jamie have said, I think God's on my side on this thing. I don't get too far down that rabbit hole because I'm not sure you want to hear any more of that from a 58-year-old. But I believe in that, and I believe in that spirituality that will save me a little bit at a time. So I went to prison, and I met a nice lady there that saw me trying to change my life, and she introduced me to peer support. And that's kind of how I got down this direction. I got home, and 6 months later, I went to some classes, and Glenn and I met. While I was in prison, though, there was programs in there for guys that were trying to better their lives. And there was this barbershop program, and I was kind of friends with this guy, and he said, hey, I notice you shave every day. And I was like, yeah, I'm old. I'll shave every day. That's what we do. And he said, would you mind coming down to the barber shop and sitting in a chair while a straight razor shave of all things, while I practice for my barbershop license? I said, yeah, no problem. And in talking to this guy, I got to know him a little bit. His name's J.R. Luck, believe it or not. Last name's Luck. And J.R. would give me these straight razor shaves, and he would talk about how he couldn't get past his addiction. He was in prison. He was getting high darn near every day because it's not too tough to get high in prison. It's everywhere. And we would have these conversations, and he would say, man, if I just do this and if I just do that. And I said, you need to connect with some spirituality. We can keep talking about this. And I would go to AA meetings in prison with this guy, and he was a good dude. He was trying. He didn't want to keep getting high. And he was getting out. And I said, are you going to be okay? He said, yeah, I think once I'm not around to drugs all the time, I'll be good. And on his first trip, shooting up, he overdosed and died. So JR is on my mind every single day of the week when I shave. I can think about JR, and I wonder often, why did God spare me and not JR? The only thing I can kind of come up with is that the people that tried to help me, I jumped out there and took the help as much as I could get it and did everything I could to do it. But I'm here to tell you that the guy who sat where you're sitting that said it can't happen to me went to prison for 4.5 years of the 6 that they gave me. And I'm the lucky one because JR didn't make it. And I sure as heck don't want that to happen to any of you. So if you're struggling with it, talk to somebody. And people will respond. Don't be afraid to go to somebody and say, hey, this is what's going on. Talk to your officer. He knows how to get a hold of us. We'll be here. It won't be like my experience in the hospital where somebody said, talk to somebody in 3 days. We're on it. And we're more than happy to help, because I certainly don't want any of you to wind up where I wound up, and even more so, I don't want you to wind up like JR. So, thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jarrett. I, like all these guys, I had an alcohol problem. It's either drugs or alcohol, it seems like. And the more, I guess when I first started drinking, I was younger. I was doing it. I like how I felt when I was drinking. And I did it for years. I also got married and had a family, continued to drink, continued to work. And at some point, I lost control of the alcohol, and the alcohol controlled me, and that's when things got bad. So, but I like who I felt when I was drinking. I enjoyed that person. I became more of a social butterfly. I could talk to people. I was always more recluse until I got a few beers in me. It caused me to, be able to talk. But it was tough because I didn't realize how much control alcohol had of me until after I got sober. Once I got sober, because I had a hard time admitting that I was an alcoholic, I thought I had a drinking problem. And alcohol to me was a bum on the street begging for money so he can get more alcohol. Alcoholics Anonymous was something I seen on TV. It wasn't real. It wasn't around my area. And I found out that all that was false, that there was help out there. I was an alcoholic because it controlled me. And once I realized that, I had to face what was going on. I had to face that I've lost control. And that was a hard thing for me to do. My pride, my ego got in the way. There's no way something that small had a hold of me. And when I had to realize that and face that it did, I had to ask myself, who did I want to be? Who do I want to become? And I had talked that it's not just about stop drinking or stop doing that drug. It's about changing our mentality. It's about being around the right people, having a right support group that can help you lift you up. It's the people that taught me how to live life on life's terms without running to the drug or alcohol. Because if I was sad, I drank. I was an alcoholic. So if I was sad, I drank. If I was happy, I drank. If I was angry, I drank. No matter what mood I was in, I drank because I was an alcoholic. I went through a lot, put my wife through a lot at the time. Fortunate that we've made amends with one another, and we're still together after, we got over 26 years together now. We also had 3 kids. I didn't think I was hurting anybody. This is just affecting me. It's not affecting my family. It's not affecting nobody else. And you find out that, I've heard that this is a family disease. And I didn't realize it was family disease until after I got sober. And I've seen how I acted and treated my wife, how I acted, treated my kids, how I wasn't there for my kids. I was there physically. They could see me, but mentally I wasn't there. I was doing what I want, how I wanted, when I wanted. And I didn't realize none of that in my active addiction because I lost all control. All rationalization goes out the window. We're not the same person sober as we are, in our addiction. And all this was new to me. It was all foreign. It took me a long time to get to where I am today. I just celebrated October 11th. I just celebrated another sobriety date. And for me, it's all by the grace of God that I'm here. Because I've tried quitting and I failed. I tried quitting and I failed. I tried quitting and I failed. That's when I was able to turn my will and my life over to a higher power, which I choose to call God, that I was able to get sober. Because I tried many times and couldn't do it on my own. I had to find somebody higher than me, somebody that knew what they was doing, and somebody else. I had to relinquish my control, because I knew I was powerless, so when it gets tough, when I did drink, I thought I was cool. Some of you guys here are seniors. I graduated living on my own, paying my own rent, my own utilities, so guess where people was coming to drink when I was, in high school, when I was a senior in high school. So I was off for a long time, off to the races for a long time. I did all that, I thought it made me more of a man because I could drink. I thought it made me a more responsible person, And Keith had talked about people passing away, people dying, you know, and why am I still here? How was I a fortunate one that did not die by drinking and driving? Look at the people that drink and drive for the first time and is no longer with us. You know, so there's no guarantee. We're not going to beat this. You know, this disease, this addiction, whatever it is, you know, that we've all had, you know, we're all lucky to be alive, you know, because it could have killed us like it has thousands and millions of others, you know. So we got to be mindful of this. This is a problem. It doesn't make you look cool. Yeah, this time of year, this age, you know, where you're at, I'm telling you, as far as it being a family disease, I've got a daughter that's an addiction. And I can't help her. Keith, I think, mentioned that too. We can't give this away. Even Glenn, we can't give this away. You have to want this. You know, and the best thing to do is not to try it, because this is a disease, they say, alcoholism, drug. I said, we're wired different. You know, educate yourself on this. And the best way to find out, you know, if the only thing you can do not to realize if you have the disease of, you know, of addiction, is not to try it, not to pick up. You know, because that first time could cause you to go into, if it's not a mental health, like, you know, problem, it will cause you to lose control. You know, I've talked to people with alcoholism, and they say it was always the effect. Well, I like the taste of alcohol, so I drink because I like the taste, you know. And then it took a long time before it was the effect that I like. You know, I was controlling it for a while. Once I lost that control and it started controlling me, then I started becoming somebody I didn't like. And said I didn't realize none of that until after I got sober. Said there are meetings out there. This team is, you know, for me to have the opportunity to do this because I'm passionate about sobriety. I'm passionate about, you know, look at where I came from, the person I was, and how much I've changed. And that's all I want to do now is help others. Listen, you are worthy. You can do this. It is possible, but I can't do the work for you. You have to do the work. You have to want this, you know. So that's all I ask. If, you know, if anybody here, if you know anybody, have them get a hold of Officer Butler. Have them get a hold of somebody here. Have them contact us, you know, whether friends, family, loved ones, whoever it is, because they can change. Because I was stuck in the moment where this is me, this is who I am. I can't change. This is just, when I die, they're going to have Bud Light and Crown Royal all over my casket because this is the person I am. And then I realized, you know, I no longer have to be that person. I can't change. And it was a hard thing for me to do, you know, but I did it. I listened to people, you know, and did what I had to. So recovery is possible. Recovery is possible.
Yes, it is. Are you done?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, thank you guys for. Would you guys ever guess that this guy's the scariest one on the team?
So we've got about 10 minutes. If you guys have questions, please raise your hands. Keep your questions respectful. And we got a few minutes here we can talk. So go ahead. Anybody right here?
Yes.
John. Go ahead, John. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Have you been in recovery?
Yes, so he asked, have we been in recovery?
Listen up.
So, yes, one of the prerequisites for us working in this field is that we have that lived experience. But for us to even start this training, we need to be in recovery and working on our sobriety and our stability for up to 2 years to be able to do this. So that was a great question. But yeah, every single one of us right here is in recovery. So and it's a work in progress. I mean, we're constantly trying to continue to that walk. So thank you.
Mr. Davis. Youngest age?
Yeah, so she asked, what's the youngest age that we've helped? So that's hard. So I had a young man that was 14 that I had met through working in this crisis unit, and his battle was so hard. He sadly ended up overdosing and passing away. But we we work with a lot of youth, different school systems, but yeah, 13, 14, 16 is we generally work with. Their youth's a tricky thing, so we try to get them connected to the right resources very quickly. We have a lot of wonderful resources for youth in our county. We have a lot of wonderful resources in our county, period, that people just aren't aware of. And that actually leads me to the one thing I wanted to leave you guys with. I want you guys to remember 3 digits for me, and that's 988. Have you guys heard of 988? 988 Help Networks. Yes, so 988, they have a text line, they have a call line. They're a wonderful resource for if you guys just need someone to speak to or talk to. Another good one's 211. 211's an information resource. If you're looking for anything, 211's another good resource. That was wonderful.
Mr. Davis, you had a question?
Can you talk a little bit about prescription drugs and how that leads to heroin and opioids?
Yes. Did you guys all hear Mr. Davis asking about prescription drugs and how that leads? So, do you want to?
No, I mean, that's exactly how it got started for me. I was written a legitimate prescription. Jared mentioned, he says a drunk was a guy living under a bridge, drinking out of a an old wino. That's what when I was coming, they called them winos. I felt the same way about drug addicts. A heroin addict was a drug addict. I just took prescription medication that a doctor gave me. I wasn't an addict. And it didn't take long. I was robbing people to get more prescription medications that weren't mine. So it's so wild how quickly it can creep up on you and how quickly it goes out of control all at the same time. But definitely, he started with the same thing I did. He had an accident. He was prescribed pain medication. I had multiple injuries, and I was prescribed pain medication. And it spiraled from there.
That's good. So,
Rashad, you had one? Okay.
j-
By the way, can I interrupt for a second? Locke, are you in here, Williams? You got an early dismissal. Is he here? He's gone? Okay.
yeah, and I just wanted to build off what Mr. Davis said, because he and I have some history together. So he's, it's a slippery slope with opioids because it to your body and your brain, heroin and fentanyl and pain medicine all hit the same brain receptor. So your body craves them all equally, but it's easy to fall into when you're getting a prescription pill from your doctor, so you think you're taking what you should, and then you become just as dependent on it as you would heroin. So.
I'm sorry. All right, listen up. Carter Knox? Connor? You're needed somewhere? Okay, we got time for 1 or 2 quick ones. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, that's a really good question. So she asked, how many years are we all in recovery? So this coming August 4th to be exact, will be my 8 years.
So if I manage to stay sober till January 4th, I'll have 9 years. So I have 8 creeping up on 9.
I'm creeping up on 6th in April, if I can do that.
October 11th, I celebrated 15 years of sobriety.
I know. He didn't even have to go to prison to get there.
All right, 1 or 2 more real quick.
Anyway, yes. Yeah.
Cody, go ahead.
Sure.
Listen up, please.
Sorry.
Do you have any advice on people whose families run with alcoholism? People where it's genetic.
Oh, that's a wonderful question. Yes, so he was asking about us advice for people where it can become genetic when you're dealing with alcoholism and genetics in your family. So he was wondering about some advice and sort of what that looks like. I have a professional for this. So.
So as far as that goes, it doesn't mean that you're automatically, destined to be an alcoholic. But what it does mean is that your family's behaviors have now taught you things from a very young age that you feel are acceptable. So I feel like in crisis work, I've found many times I come up on a scene with family members, and that their normal was never my normal. So I have to disengage what I believe to be normal. And I've had mothers that have Narcan in their pocket, won't use it on their overdosing child because they're saving it for themselves. And that is not how my family would have ever been. So I have to be non-judgmental and get in front of these people. And so with alcoholism, there are some people that'll just either leave it lay out and not paying attention is just as bad as feeding it to your kids if you're leaving it laying out, and there'll be young ones drinking, and that just gives them a taste at a very young age while their brain's still developing. That's the bottom line, is your brains are still developing. So we need to be careful what we ingest because we want to reach our full potential.
And to build off that too, you hear the phrase break the cycle a lot. And so that's same thing with that, it just becomes a cycle. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So we're here to help kind of navigate and cheerlead for better resources to help break those cycles. So that was an excellent question. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
All right, we have, well, first of all, let's do this. I told you it was going to be a wild ride here for a little bit, and let me tell you something. It is not easy to stand in front of 500 or 600 strangers and tell those intimate stories. So I think the least we can do is thank them for coming in here and talking with us today. All right, Mr. Croxall, you have an announcement. Don't go anywhere. Just sit tight. Listen up.
As he dismisses, I want you guys to remember that you can always reach out to folks here at the school. Make sure you talk to Officer Butler if there's anything that you need health-wise, anything that was mentioned here. Also asking for all senior NTHS, you remain here after everyone is dismissed for a quick meeting.
Okay. And I think we owe another round of applause to your hero, the guy who set this all up. All right, so listen, we're going to dismiss. Do not move yet. We're going to dismiss. We're going to go to sixth period. We're going to start at the back. Staff, if you let them go one row at a time. Everybody just sit tight.